Hello everybody. Just a quick one before we begin. The hierarchy on this was a little screwed up at the time, so some of the props don't appear correctly. I forgot to record the pleas because I'm stupid, because he pled innocent. And look at this cool little piece of artwork that a friend of mine did for me, which is now going to be in the bottom corner of the videos, I've decided. So yes, that's it. That's your heads up. This video's buggered as normal, but I quite enjoyed this case, so let's go and watch it. Well, it's not a murder case, but let's go watch it. Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the courtroom. Mr. Wolfgang, I see your hand waving. Should I be worried about this in any way, shape, or form? Very good. Your child, Mr. Beast, who keeps moving around whenever he sits because the seats are fucked, does appear to be rather annoying me, so if you'd be kind enough to perhaps spank him and kill him and just strap him up and tie him up in a corner somewhere, I'd appreciate that. Anyway, welcome back to VR Courtroom. Obviously, I have just discussed with the lawyers the more serious and fine points of the case, although actually thinking about it, I didn't tell them what he was accused of directly. So, I would like to point out to the lawyers that Mr. Shin is accused of robbing a pregnant woman at knife point. Mr. Piggy, the floor belongs to you. Please don't piss on it, it costs money.
Yeah. My client was at, I think this is the only thing I heard, it was at a Greek bar. And I have more evidence I can prove to give. Try not. This is my first time actually being nervous. Make him not guilty. I have enough evidence. That's all I need. That's all I need to say. But I don't really have too many things.
That's absolutely fine, Mr. Piggy. That's an absolutely acceptable opening statement. Thank you very much, Mr. Defence Lawyer. A clear and case opening statement there. He's not guilty and he can prove it using evidence. Very good. Mr. Bro, if you'd be kind enough to take the floor into the circle of communication, and with any luck, you do a bit better in this case than the last one. 2 minutes once again, my friend, and your time has cracked off.
Your Honor, one man in the audience. He is a very guilty man, and I know that because he has explained to me, and I have proven that he is not guilty. The evidence that I have given is proofs that he is guilty. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bro. Again, a very short and concise opening statement, but that's all you need to do. That's all we expect in the courtroom is your best. So thank you for those opening statements, lawyers. You've roughly laid out what I'm expecting. Now, as I said, the prosecution will be making their full and frank case first, as I do like them to push it forward so the defence can then retaliate against that if thus. So following the objection rules, Mr. Piggy, you may object to the next case as you see fit. Mr. Haybro, once again you will have to stand in the circle of communication. Let me know which letter/number you'd like, and other than that, it all belongs to you, and you may proceed as you see fit. Off you pop.
Alright, can you go to letter A? Alright, as you can see here, letter A is money. This money represents the pregnant woman's money that she had in her purse, or her handbag. Yes.
Shin. Mr.
Shin stole this money from the pregnant woman. As shown, that is the money from her. He stole this money, as proven. Can you go to letter B? Letter B, this shows a birth certificate for the child she is about to have. This birth certificate shows that she is a pregnant woman and she is about to give birth of the child she's going to give. And the money was going to pay for her hospital bill. Can you go to letter C? This right here is, it's just a black square. I think that is the security cam USB, hard drive that has caught, the camera shows that caught him robbing the woman, stealing her money.
Mr. Haybro, I am thinking of a number between 1 and 10, Mr. Haybro. What number am I thinking of?
7.
Mr. Piggy, what number am I thinking of?
5.
Carry on, Mr. Haybro.
Oh. Alright. Letter, next letter, please.
Letter D.
Alright. This is a knife.
Yep. Suspension of disbelief allows
Alright.
that.
Alright. This knife shows it has DNA on the end of the knife showing his fingerprints that it is the knife that he robbed the woman with and assaulted her with.
Mr. Hayden, heads or tails?
Thus, heads.
Okay, carry on, Mr. Hayden.
The DNA shown has his DNA on it and is the knife that he assaulted the pregnant woman with.
Okay, once again, Mr.
Yeah,
Hayden,
that's
if you
all I
can
have.
up. Heads or tails again, please, Mr. Hayden, just for confirmation.
Heads.
Heads. Okay. So does that bring your case to a close then, Mr. I keep calling you Mr. Hayden, I apologise.
That brings
Mr.
my
Brown.
case to a close.
Very well
Yes.
then. I appear to have lost my gavel. I probably dropped it on the floor. Where's the reset button? There's the reset button. Button! I'm a good judge. I know where the button is. Gavel! It's not there. Where's my gavel? Who stole my gavel? Who stole the judge's gavel? I shall kill you. I will kill you.
Train.
I will kill you! Except I've got it, so it's absolutely fine. Thank you very much for your case, Mr. Lawyer. If I could please ask Thomas, the fuck engine, to return to where he's expecting. I'm starting to lose my temper with you a little bit.
Son, get out.
You will be removed from the courtroom if I have to tell you not to be in the courtroom again, Mr. Beast.
Son, come on.
Right,
Get
as
that
I was
abomination
saying,
out of here.
he will be if he comes back into the courtroom, because I do have patience, but not that much patience. Mr. Bro, thank you for your case. You may take a seat. And an interesting case, as was presented there by the lawyer. Some rather interesting pieces of evidence. Obviously, you don't know how the rolls have gone. So I'm actually going to tell you how the rolls have gone now, for the benefit of the defence's counsel. The knife was found to be seen in the CCTV in the possession of Mr. Shin. However, the DNA was compromised and we couldn't figure out what was going on there. In relation to, which one was it? We did another one. Was it B? We did another one as well. It wasn't the birth certificate. I remember I asked for a roll. I don't remember what it fucking was. Hang on. No, D was the, I did 2 heads or tails and we did a roll. I think it was on C about the hard drive. Yes, that was it. So it did show the accused with a knife and the victim in the proximity of each other. However, what exactly Mr. Shin was doing is not entirely known. So, for the benefit of the defence counsel, Mr. Shin has been seen on the CCTV wielding a knife in the vicinity of the victim. However, it was unclear what he was doing due to poor lighting, and a knife belonging to Mr. Shin was found. However, there was no DNA evidence suggesting that he had harmed the mother with it. So that's how the rolls have gone on that one. I don't always tell the defence counsel that fact, but as it can be quite case-changing, I do believe it's fair that he knows. So with that in mind, Mr. Piggy, I'm going to lend the floor to you now to present your full and frank case to the courtroom using all of the evidence that you have acquired. Mr. Bro, you may object as you see fit using the evidence you, using the objection rules rather. Mr. Piggy, the floor is yours. Please proceed with your case.
Alright, I don't know if it's number... Yeah, I think it's numbers for mine, for the... Yeah, go to number 1, please. That is, a card that he had, 50 minutes before the, let's say, assault, I guess. He was at a Greek bar, he told me. Could be a lie. That's all I have, so my evidence, and number 2.
Go ahead with your objection, Mr. Bro.
Security camera footage showed that he was assaulting the woman, so how is he at a Greek bar?
I said 50 minutes before. I still have...
That's an acceptable example. I accept that this was 50 minutes before the CCTV footage showed him. Didn't show him assaulting the woman, but it did show him with the knife in the vicinity of the victim. So it didn't show exactly what he was doing, but he was there. Just to clarify that, Mr. Bro, as it is a rather contentious point in the case. But yes, I do accept that he's had that, and it has been used within 50 minutes beforehand in a Greek bar. Carry on, Mr. Piggy.
Number 2, please.
Number 2, certainly. Number 2.
That, I'm just gonna say that's like a can of, like, others are cans of beers. So he could have been drunk when it happened. just was 30 minutes before the crime scene, but he was almost there. And then go to number 3, please. Go ahead. That is a passport to somewhere I found. He gave me a passport probably somewhere else before the crime scene, so he came somewhere else. Maybe that's what I've got.
So just so I'm clear on this, you're saying that he used a passport to travel far away from where the actual crime happened. Is that correct?
No, we're to come to the bar.
Oh, so he's travelled from some... Okay, yes. Just for clarification.
Yeah, here.
Just for clarification, there are paper documents in there that works better for suspension of disbelief, but I will believe this coffee mug is a passport for your case. But there are books and things that you can use as passports.
On my screen, that is a passport.
Oh, is it now? There we go. The hierarchy's fucked up, because for me, that's a cup of coffee. Okay, thanks for pointing that out. Hey, Dork Toast, the hierarchy's fucked up. God, we'll go to a different courtroom after this. But yes, okay, Mr. Piggy, I apologise. Thank you for clarifying that. My sensors in my eyes are obviously not working. I need to be serviced. Carry on, Mr. Piggy, with your case.
Yep, go to number 4. So just pretend that mug is it is a mug on my screen, just making sure. Pretending that's a beer bottle, so it's like a beer.
Right.
He had 2 beers in a day, so he could get drunk easily, or he could have been drunk when the assault happened, I'd say. So he could have been drunk.
Go ahead with your objection, Mr. Bro.
If he was drunk, that still doesn't mean he didn't assault or rob the woman. That still means he didn't.
Mr. Piggy?
But actually it would have been, because this was about 20 minutes before the assault. So could have, because when you're
Before or after? Before?
No. Before, yeah.
So he's still drunk doing it.
Yeah, he's still drunk. He could have been still drunk when the assault happened. So if because when you're drunk, it gets I think if you know, because my dad been through it a long time. But
He's still doing it, even though besides he's drunk, he's still doing it. Shit, who's calling me?
I believe Mr. Bro is slightly distracted, though. He does bring up a valid point that because he's drunk does not excuse the fact that he may have committed this crime. I believe is the point that Mr. Bro is attempting to make here. Just because you're drunk doesn't mean that you're incapable of doing violent crimes, Mr. Piggy. Trust me, I've been drunk before. I'm a man.
Sorry. Sorry.
so I think that's the end.
Okay. Well, in that case, then, thank you, Mr. Piggy, for your case. It's vastly appreciated. And thank you, lawyers, for your case. Short cases, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with a short case once in a while. It actually makes a bit of a change. Turns out that I do more talking in these cases than the lawyers do. But thank you, lawyers. Very interesting cases as presented. So we're now going to move on to amendments. As I mentioned, amendments are if you'd like to change anything about your case having found out new evidence. You don't have to make any amendments if you don't want to. The judge is the one who decides if the amendment goes through, and the lawyers can object to them as they see fit. So, Mr. Haybro, are there any amendments that you would like to make to your case as you have presented it?
I would just like to say, that before when me and Christian were in the back room talking, he says he doesn't remember anything, proving that.
Is he drunk?
I just want to say that he forgot that he doesn't remember anything, so he doesn't. Like, he's technically covering up, saying, he's technically lying, saying, oh, I don't remember anything, I didn't do this, I don't remember anything.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Bro. I wouldn't class that as an amendment. I would have classed that as something you should have brought up in your case, but I will take it into consideration. I do intend to ask Mr. Shin a few questions before we finish, just for good measure. But are there any other amendments you'd like to make, Mr. Bro? Very good. Mr. Piggy, would you like to make any amendments to your case as you have presented it?
No.
Very good. Mr. Shin, would you please be kind enough to step into the circle of communication, because I'd like to ask you a few questions myself for clarification. Mr. Shin, what's your full name?
Shin Kurosuna.
How old are you, Mr. Shin?
15.
Do you have any medical backgrounds, Mr. Shin? Any medical history? Anything we need to know
Yep.
medically?
Yes.
Would you please elaborate on these medical conditions for the benefit of the court, Mr. Shin?
I don't understand the question.
Do you have any medical conditions like ADHD or memory problems or bladder issues or anything along those lines? Is there anything wrong with this question?
I have a memory problem since I was born.
You always had memory problems. Okay. Short-term or long-term memory problems, Mr. Shin?
Short term.
Short-term, very well. For the benefit of the doubt, I accept that most people in this room are fairly young, so the fact that Mr. Shin has labelled that he is 15 will not be held against him in terms of drinking alcohol. We will assume, for the benefit of the courtroom, that everybody in here is 18 in the eyes of the law, so that is not to be taken into consideration. Mr. Shin, do you frequently forget useful information and facts?
Maybe.
Mr. Shin, what did you tell your lawyer, Mr. Piggyman, when you were talking to him in the back room?
I told him that I was in bar yesterday at 11 p.m. and since that time I don't remember anything.
Do you have a job, Mr. Shin?
Nope, I'm 15.
Okay, thank you kindly, Mr. Shin. One last question, Mr. Shin, before I do send you off. Do you have a criminal record or any history of crime?
No one that I remember.
That was the best answer you could have given. Thank you, Mr. Shin. You may take a seat next to your lawyer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Piggy, do you need a moment recess?
No, I have a couple more minutes.
Okay, we're almost done, so we are almost at the end of this. Very well, in that case then we shall move on to the last part of the court, which are the closing statements. Closing statements, much like opening statements, are short and concise statements about your case, where you may reference all of the evidence from both the prosecution and the defence's side. Mr. Bro, do you have a question you'd like to ask?
VK just messaged me and texted me he got you.
You got what?
Never mind.
He's right there. Hi, VK. I think that might have been earlier on when we went to the train world and it was all fucky-wucky. But, okay. So, I'm going to ask Mr. Bro to present his closing statement to the courtroom first. So, Mr. Bro, if you'd be kind enough to step into the circle of communication to speak for the last time in this case, I would appreciate that. Please, go ahead.
Your Honor, one man that's in the audience, I would like to say that I have given all my evidence. I have proven that he is guilty, and I have shown that he is guilty. That's all I have to say.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Bro. You may take a seat. Mr. Piggy, if you'd be kind enough to step into the circle of communication for the last time to make your closing statement to the court, I would vastly appreciate that.
Alright. I still think he is not guilty because it was 30 minutes and it could have been, if it was him there, he could have. Alright now. I should have thought about this.
Don't worry, Mr. Piggy Man. Everybody has bad days.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool with everyone doing. Alright. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Piggyman, and thank you, lawyers, at the end of the day. As I said before, it can be quite an intimidating thing to come before a judge that actually expects you to put some effort in, and I have been thoroughly pleased with the performances of the lawyers, knowing that the pair of you are not the most experienced lawyers that I've come across. So what I'm going to do now is the judge's summary, where I go through the cases as they have been presented and what I have drawn from them, and then we will move on to judgment. So we'll start with the prosecution's case as they begin, with evidence A, which was the money that was allegedly taken from the accused, the witness rather, by the accused. This amount of money was found on him according to this. There was no real information given out here, and it wasn't generally linked in. Outside of it was representative of the money that was taken. So, yeah, a bit of a weird piece of evidence, but it is allegedly the money taken from the woman by the accused there, and it was allegedly found on him. This was not questioned by the defence, so it was entered as general fact. This is where objections are useful. On evidence B was a birth certificate. Now, this was one that the defence could have picked up on because birth certificates are not normally issued until a child is born. However, in the suspension of disbelief, I have allowed to pass that the mother is so excited that she has a pre-birth birth certificate in preparation for the birth of her child, which has already been signed, and then another birth certificate will be issued when the child is actually born. This was more to prove that the mother was actually pregnant, which is causation, and effect, which is excellent. In evidence number C, we had an excellent piece of suspension of disbelief by pointing out that this is a hard drive which contained the CCTV of the alleged incident. This is actually a floppy disk, but we allow suspension of disbelief that says this is a hard drive. And on that hard drive, there is indeed video footage from a CCTV camera that shows the accused, Mr. Shin, with a knife in the vicinity. No questions in judge's summary, I'm afraid. With a knife in the vicinity of the accused. However, we cannot see due to poor light what was going on. The number I picked there was 9. Mr. Hay selected 7, which means that he won that role and was quite close. So this established that Mr. Shin was in the vicinity of the accused with a knife. And that's exactly what I see here. For me, this is actually an RPG, but suspension of disbelief allows this to be a knife for me. This is the knife that was found on Mr. Shin's possession when he was arrested. The DNA evidence did link it to Mr. Shin, however there was no DNA evidence that linked it to the victim. Mr. Hay did indeed win the first role, which includes that this was Mr. Shin's knife, but did not win the second role, which would have proved on to assault. So in that particular case, the prosecution is very heavily focused on the robbery and the potential of assault, but it does not appear that we can prove any real bodily grievous harm. But that's that particular case as presented by the prosecution. We then moved on to the defence's case, which was an interesting case, but everybody has their first day if you want. Started out with a bank card here, which established that the accused, Mr. Shin, was in a Greek bar drinking alcohol and was purchasing using this card 50 minutes before the time of the robbery. This is a nice build-up that the accused was not in the vicinity. Wrong with the camera on. Not in the vicinity of where the crime was going on. However, this was before. On camera number 2, we can see that he was drinking alcoholic beverages. 2 of them, allegedly, which was enough to make him rather intoxicated. Mr. Bro did point out in one of his objections that intoxication is not an excuse for any crime, which is a very valid point. On evidence number 3, we had... This was a passport. Now, it appears as a coffee cup for me, but it is a passport. I need to get my sensors done in. This passport was used today to enter the country to go to the bar, indicating that Mr. Shin had travelled an excessively long distance to go to this bar. For what reason, I don't know. Perhaps it was a family venue, although my belief on this is that Mr. Shin potentially was rather broke after acquiring what would be a flight, realistically, to use a passport to get into the country to go to the bar, and therefore may be short on change. But this was not established by any lawyer, so I will have to dismiss that as speculation and nothing else. And then we moved on to evidence 4, which was... it was a coffee cup, and I believe this was once again relating to the alcohol that was drunk by Mr. Shin. And once again, this appears as a movie ticket for me, because the hierarchy is broken, but that's fine. But this was a coffee cup, which indicates the alcoholic beverages that Mr. Shin was drinking. It's possible that the combination of alcohol that was drunk by Mr. Shin, as well as his medical conditions, where he has admitted in front of the judge during questioning that he does have medical issues. Alright, fair enough. I do believe Mr. Shin when he says that. No evidence of this is being produced, but I will allow this to pass for now. I didn't find the actual questioning or the witnessing for myself particularly useful. I simply used it to establish a few facts. And the only trap I laid out, which was asking Mr. Shin about his history of crimes, was answered in the best possible way, which was, I don't remember. So that's fair enough, but rather interesting cases as presented here. I have already come to a judgment on this one. I do apologise, but I come to a judgment quite early on this one on the way it's gone. And I must say straight away, although I do believe that Mr. Shin did not intend to leave the bar with the intention of robbing somebody, I am rather convinced that Mr. Shin did indeed rob a woman. I do believe that he used a knife to intimidate a large sum of money from a pregnant woman. The location, not really made clear where this location was or how it actually happened, just that it happened, which is rather unfortunate. We cannot prove using the evidence that Mr. Shin, however, did cause any harm to the woman in a physical way and only in an emotional state. So, Mr. Shin, I do not find you guilty of the lesser charge of assault in this case. However, based on the evidence that has been presented to me and the court cases that has been presented to me, I do find you guilty of the crime of robbery of a pregnant woman, which is a despicable crime. I am the only one that's allowed to kill human babies around here, you fucking horrible person. And therefore, I sentence you to death by going into a Western Baptist Bro church and telling them that you're incredibly gay until they beat the shit out of you with those shitty signs. I also expect you to burn the church down before you die. And that's the end of that case. I like doing that. So yes, that's the end of it. If you didn't follow that, the prosecution won by proving that he was guilty of robbery.